Jesu, Jesu, show us how to live, show us how to love the neighbors we share with you. Jesu, Jesu, show us how to live, show us how to love the neighbors we share with you. Hi, and welcome back. My name is Vellani, and today it's my pleasure to tell you the story of a very famous dinner party and a very famous dinner party planner, Elisha the prophet. Elisha and his friends lived a long, long time ago, but their stories are as fresh as today's news headlines. Yes, sometimes people think they want to get into a fight. It seems like they are just looking for something to make them mad or someone to blame their angry feelings on. Angry, pushy behavior is something we all feel like doing sometimes, whether we're kids or adults, whether we're regular neighborhood people or important national or world people. Maybe sometimes it's not you who wants to get pushy, but you see other people, someone else, getting angry or starting to act like a bully. Sometimes you may just be the right person to change things, to add a different kind of point of view, or change the subject, or to focus on a solution or some other way to fix things rather than argue about them. Maybe simply crack a joke, help get folks back on track. No matter how long or short an argument or a fight might be, maybe you can have the superpower to help get the fight over and done and get folks back to working together. Remember, arguing is a part of life, and it's just as natural as a rainstorm after a sunny day. And when we argue, it doesn't mean people aren't still our friends. It's just people being people. And of course, none of us can live without other people. Remember what we've been saying about the Bible? The Bible is a kind of very special carry-along library. The Bible is a book, of course, but it's a book full of other books and of history and poetry and stories and letters and dreams and you name it. One of the books in the Bible is called Kings. In fact, there are two books called Kings, Kings 1 and Kings 2, sometimes simply referred to as First Kings and Second Kings. Can you guess what the Kings books are all about? If you said Kings, you'd be mostly right. The Kings are two old history books about many of the kings and queens that lived in the countries long ago that we now know today as Syria and Lebanon and Israel and Palestine and Jordan, Iraq and Egypt and even Turkey. In the old days, three of the big countries in this area were called Aram and Israel and Samaria. In fact, the country we know as Israel today is actually named after the country that existed a long time ago in this very part of the world and was also called Israel. Another cool thing is that the language of the old country of Aram, Aramaic, became the favorite language for life and day-to-day business for almost 1,000 years throughout that part of the world. Kind of like the English language is today in large parts of our world. In fact, Aramaic was the language that Jesus spoke when he was growing up, and the language Jesus and his friends used all their lives. The King's books don't only talk about kings and queens. They also talk about people called prophets. Now, prophet is just a fancy word for a very smart and well-known teacher. In fact, the word prophet comes from the word spokesperson, because folks thought these teachers were so smart and so good that they were spokespersons for God. Prophets worked very hard to help people learn the right things to do in life. They worked at teaching and advising regular people like me and you, as well as kings and queens and generals. So, like we sometimes hear on the news today, the countries of Aram and Israel and Samaria were always finding something to fight about. And prophets, like Elisha, were always trying to get people to quit fighting and to work together to make life and other things better for everyone. So, for today's purposes, the long and the short of things is this. As usual, Aram and Israel and Samaria were scheming to get one up on each other, even if that meant using their armies to fight. And Elisha and his friends were always doing everything in their power to find ways to help the countries get along. And Elisha was always trying to think of new ways to make that happen, even if it meant using a little trickery now and then with those kings. Well, that's where our story begins today. And so, in the second book of Kings, we read that when Aram was at war with Israel, every time the king of Aram tried to make a plan to attack, Israel found out about it. They were ready, and Aram's attacks failed. The king of Aram called his people together and said, "Is someone here a spy? How does Israel always know what we're going to be doing?" And one of his soldiers said, "No, no one here, my king. Elisha, the prophet in Israel. He knows all that you say, even what you say when you are alone in your room." The king said, "Where is he? We need to capture him." "He's in the city of Dothan," came the answer. So the king of Aram sent horses and chariots and an army to surround the city of Dothan at night. When Elisha's servant woke in the morning, he saw that they were surrounded by this army and cried out, "What shall we do?" Elisha reassured him, "Don't be afraid. More are with us than with them." And to prove this, Elisha prayed for his servant's eyes to be opened, and suddenly the young man saw the surrounding mountains filled with horses and chariots of fire. When the Arameans came to attack, Elisha prayed again, this time that they would be made blind. And they were. When they were blind, Elisha said to them, "This is not the way you're trying to go. This is not the city that you want to get to. Follow me. I'll bring you to the man you want." But he led them to Samaria. The Arameans opened their eyes and could see. They saw they were deep in the territory of their enemy. The king of Israel saw them too, and he said, "Should I kill them? Well, should I?" But Elisha cried out, "No, feed them, give them something to drink, and then send them home." So the king prepared a great feast and shared it with those he'd been fighting against. And they ate and they drank, and then they went home. And they did not attack again. The end. Let's take a moment to think about our story. Maybe to ask ourselves some questions about the people in our story. If you are listening with your parents or an older brother or sister, maybe you might stop the video after each of our wonderings. Then you can talk aloud with each other before going to the next question. If you'd like to, you can stop the video after say, "I wonder," and touch my cheek like that. Just a thought. Feel free to do what works for you. In hearing this story today, what do you think the people look like? How do you think they dressed? What does a king or a queen wear? What does a soldier wear? What does a prophet wear? I wonder. Imagine you are the king. Imagine that you are with the king and Elisha. How would you have felt if you were them facing the Aramean army? I wonder. Why might Elisha have told the king to give the enemy army a big feast rather than fight back? I wonder. We often hear the phrase, overcome evil with good, or love is stronger than hate. How might this story show the truth and the power of those statements? Love is stronger than hate. I wonder. Is there someone in your life right now who has been unkind to you and whom you want to hurt back? What would a response of compassion, that special kind of deep, strong love, what would a compassionate response look like? Being strong with love rather than being mean with revenge. I wonder. Can you think of a time when you were expecting more fighting and arguing, and instead there was peace and maybe a party, celebration? What did that look like? How did that happen? I wonder. Showing compassion to those who hurt is not the same as being weak or giving up or letting people walk all over you. Showing compassion or mercy is an act of strength, an act of love. Think about a time when you or someone you knew used the superpower of love, the superpower of compassion, instead of meanness or revenge. What did that look like? How did that make you feel? Where do you think that strength came from? Where does that superpower of love live? I wonder. Remember, we wondered just a bit ago about kings and queens and prophets and what they look like. Maybe you'd like to draw and color picture them. My friend Susan Kern colored a couple of pictures for me to share with you today, and I thank Susan for that. Maybe you and your family can try your hand at putting your ideas about kings and soldiers and prophets into pictures. What they wore, maybe if you don't have crayons, or maybe you prefer to use clay, or maybe you have some toys around your own house where you can repeat this story. We actually have some pictures that we can send you through email that you can color if you'd like to. If you don't already have these pictures, just let the church know and we'll email them to you. In fact, this is the person, if you don't have the email, this is the name of a friend and teacher of mine, Jody Belcher. And here it is, J for Jody, Jody Belcher, B-E-L-C-H-E-R, that funny sign at, J Belcher at, HC, which stands for what? Holy Comforter, HC-B for Burlington, I bet, .org. So jbelcher at hc-b.org. And Jody or Susan Tichy, someone will send these pictures right to you. So let's see what Susan had done for me. Here's a picture that Susan colored. Now, the person with the crown, who do you think that is? Likely a king, right? And this person with all the whiskers, that I think is Elisha. And Elisha is telling the king of Israel all of Aram's plans. King of Aram had plans. Well, hello. Here's a version of the king of Aram. He's angry. And who's he angry at? Elisha. And what's he thinking about doing? He's thinking about capturing Elisha. Well, the soldiers come. The soldiers come. Here are the soldiers. But Elisha, what's he do? He tricks them and makes them blind. We don't know exactly how he did it, but somehow those soldiers couldn't see correctly anymore. And there's Elisha, and he says in English here, follow me. But he may have been speaking in Aramaic himself back then. So what happens when the king of Israel finds his enemy in Samaria? Does he fight him? No. He throws a party. There he is. He's even breaking out something to drink. He's going to start the party. Maybe he's giving a toast. Who knows? Oh, and here's a really big one. There we go. Kind of the moral of the story. That they may eat and drink. And of course, if they're busy eating and drinking, they're going to put those dangerous weapons down. They put the weapons down and instead enjoyed each other and became friends. Here's another idea. Maybe you or someone older can help you write down some ideas of ways that you can be strong in love and not mad in anger. Here's an idea I wrote down. Sometimes if I start getting mad, before I say anything, I try to stop and count to 5. Sometimes just stopping and thinking lets the anger go down and lets the power of love come up and help us do a better job at doing what we want to do. So you might have some ideas, write them down, or maybe someone who's with you who writes, you can tell your ideas to them and they can write them on a piece of paper and you can think about it. Well, of course, all good stories need a little song. So here's a song that I put together. My friend Peggy is in the other room, I think, and is going to come and help me. I'm waiting to hear her footsteps. I think we hear them. Peggy's going to help out with her penny whistle. And her penny whistle is coming around the corner with us right now. Peg, show me your penny whistle again. It's a long, shiny thing, and it has holes in it, and Peg uses her fingers to make a great sound. So here we go. Old Aram's a rarin' with the king surely darin' to drive all his neighbors o'er mountains and seas. He's warmin' to warrin' in angry decorum. He tells his soldiers, get ready to march. But Elisha the prophet knows he's got to stop it. In Aram and Israel, Samaria too, more bolder than soldiers at shoulder to shoulder, in building up peace between friends and their foes. Won't you dance round the table? Come eat when you're able. Finding new friends at every new turn, whether soup with a ladle or fresh vegetable. The bread we'll spread with butter to spare. Well, they teach soldiers to follow where'er the king holler. Their boots and their buckles like shiny shark teeth. But soldiers with orders will seek calmer quarters, only allowed to think for themselves. So Elisha the prophet, with a brain like a rocket, why not fix a fine supper to last several days, with fresh food and fine drink and time enough to think. It's eating and dance over fighting and war. Won't you dance round the table? Come eat when you're able. Finding new friends at every new turn, whether soup with a ladle or fresh vegetable. Bread we'll spread with butter to spare. There's a secret, we'll keep it, safe from the kings and the generals too. Who'll roll it? I'll roll it, we'll need it, I'll need it. A tasty new dish for me and for you. Won't you dance round the table? Come eat when you're able. Finding new friends at every new turn, whether soup with a ladle or fresh vegetable. The bread we'll spread with butter to spare. The bread we'll spread with butter to spare. The bread we'll spread with butter to spare. Very good. Thank you, Peggy. Peggy is your name. Very good. We'll end with a prayer. Dear God, thank you for teaching us that with compassion and the strength of love, we stop conflict and arguing, or at least can slow it down. Give us the strength to treat our enemies with mercy, not getting back at them, even if they deserve it, so we can all live together in trust and peace. Amen. And thank you for joining us again with the Holy Comforter story. Until we meet again, please remember Elisha and his friends and find special ways that you can help your friends and neighbors, particularly those who might need your help in stopping an argument. See you next time. Ciao. Jesu, Jesu, show us how to live, show us how to love the neighbors we share with you.